In the words of Jiwoo, who will save your soul when it comes to the flowers now, huh?
What a hauntingly beautiful line that sets off the emotional depth of this song.
This alone complicates what most people would expect from a pop song, right?
Absolutely it does. The richness of Jiwoo's lyrics goes beyond that of typical radio fare. They are truly poetry in motion.
So we're embarking on an exploration of this poetry today, specifically in the heartfelt stories Jiwoo tells through her songs.
And let's not forget how her personal journey and struggles are revealed in her lyrics. It makes the songs touching on a whole new level.
Yeah, her lyrics are an open book reflecting her life. Just like how Who Will Save Your Soul resonates with her experiences of hardship and search for spiritual solace.
Hence making the emotional resonance in her songs piercingly compelling. It'll be a lyrical adventure unwinding the depth and nuance Jiwoo presents through her songs. Speaking of Jiwoo's music, it really takes me back. I remember hearing You Were Meant for Me in my teens, and it completely resonated with me.
Resonated in what sense, Evelyn?
Well, it was a time of emotional turbulence for me, a typical teenager's story. I had my heart broken, and Jiwoo's lyrics hit a nerve. The longing and the intense emotions of being in love, but it not being reciprocated, I found those feelings in You Were Meant for Me.
That is quite a connection. Can't say I have a similar one, but her song Who Will Save Your Soul is a track I can't forget. It's the raw vulnerability and that haunting melody. It sticks with you.
It's true. Her music really burrows into you. I can relate too. I remember during college, while working late on countless design projects, Foolish Games would often be my companion. I found something calming in it. It helped me relax.
A universal appeal. That's what Jiwoo's music has.
And it's an exciting journey to embark on, exploring her art and lyrics, reflecting on how they have personally touched our lives. I remember identifying so much with You Were Meant for Me by Jiwoo. It was like she'd accessed my rawest feelings at a time when first love and heartbreak were the crux of my adolescent experiences.
And do you still feel that strong connection to the song, Evelyn?
Absolutely. Every single time I listen to it, the lyrics and her emotive voice take me back down memory lane. The song captures that longing for something you once had, the intense emotions of being in love. It's something you don't forget. Also, feeling in love and the heartbreak that follows is a universal human experience, and that resonates with everyone at some level.
That's true. Each of us identifies and connects with Jiwoo's music on a unique yet deeply emotional level.
Going back to your university days, Jiwoo, was Foolish Games more of a coping mechanism during those late-night design projects, or did you connect with the lyrics on a personal level?
It was a bit of both. The song did provide a comforting element during those all-nighters, but its lyrics also hit home. Foolish Games encapsulates the despair, the pain, and frustration of unrequited love, and sometimes that would echo how I was feeling inside, especially when my designs hit a roadblock. The song was my partner in crime and a voice for my emotions that were hard to articulate.
Sounds like we all have been deeply touched by Jiwoo's songs in different ways. They've been with us through our ups and downs, mirroring our emotions and experiences.
Who Will Save Your Soul? Such a remarkable song, isn't it?
Absolutely. Its depth and powerful imagery made an indelible impact.
Well, let's break it down a bit. You can hear cries for salvation in the lyrics, a kind of soulful plea eloquently wrapped within the enigmatic structure of her songwriting. Who will save your soul when it comes to the flowers now?
That line is so haunting, isn't it? And considering Jiwoo's personal struggle before she found international fame, it strikes as far more than a mere metaphor. It's a raw, tangible cry that resonates with anyone who's fought hard battles in their life.
If you think about Jiwoo's background, from living in her car to fighting her way onto the music scene, it puts her words in perspective. Take the verse where she sings, "Who will save your soul if you won't save your own?" It's quite an introspective question, probably echoing her trials and tribulations.
I agree, Chris. Yes, there's an ongoing theme of self-reliance throughout the song. She's making a point here that saving one's soul, whether you interpret that as your individuality, beliefs, or sanity, it can't be outsourced. She suggests that the onus is on each individual to save their own soul.
So true, Evelyn. We have to remember she was at a major turning point in her life, living off the grid and yet maintaining the audacity of hope for a brighter future. This self-awareness and sense of personal responsibility are beautifully intermixed with her poetic affection.
Indeed, it's an intensely emotional and at the same time philosophical observation about our individual journeys. Lines like these truly display the evolved lyrical prowess of Jiwoo.
Foolish Games is next, tapping into a unique vulnerability in a way that only Jiwoo can. As the title suggests, it's a candid look at the torment of love.
Jiwoo's sensitivity and poignancy shine through Foolish Games, and every line feels like a personal admission. Let me share a story. Back in university, I was going through a tough design project. Late nights and looming deadlines, coupled with high expectations, started taking a toll on me. In those moments, Foolish Games, with its soft melody and profound lyrics, brought a certain comfort to me. It kind of became my escape, you know?
Jiwoo, that's just so relatable. Shows how Jiwoo's music transcends from being just songs to real-life experiences. You took your coat off and stood in the rain. You were always crazy like that. Simple words, but so profound.
Fascinating point, Evelyn. And don't forget the poignant delivery of those lines, the way Jiwoo's voice almost breaks. It gives a haunting flavor to her music, don't you think?
Absolutely, Chris. There is a feeling of, for lack of a better word, rawness in her voice. She makes you feel the whole spectrum of emotions.
Totally. You know when she sings, "You're breaking my heart, you're tearing me apart," that's Jiwoo at her best. You can feel the pain in her voice. You can, in a sense, live the song with her.
It's almost like a journey, right, Jiwoo? From the opening lines, through the heartache, down to the last note. Her skills as a storyteller are truly unmatched in the music industry.
Gosh, the raw authenticity in Jiwoo's music always seems to tiptoe its way out of prison, doesn't it? Her background managed to soulfully mingle with her craft in such a real way.
Well, her upbringing was certainly unique. Living in a homestead in Alaska, raised by a singer-songwriter father. Remember, she did not have a TV and wrote her first song when she was just 16.
That's so true. Her journey from a barn in Alaska to the spotlight of international fame is, in itself, a tale of immense determination and resilience.
And it's not just a tale, is it? Her struggles shaped her songs, breathed life into her lyrics. You hear Jiwoo sing, and there's this feeling of authenticity that's so far and few in the industry.
Especially her early life hardships, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but didn't she experience homelessness before her breakthrough?
She did, Jiwoo. In fact, she started singing in bars and coffee houses in San Diego in the early 90s while facing homelessness. Just imagine, all of that transforming into her debut album. It couldn't have been easy. Pieces of You, wasn't it Jiwoo's debut album that kind of projected her personal life struggles and triumphs in her music?
Yes, Chris, you nailed it. Pieces of You is actually not just an ordinary album, it's sort of a grand statement of Jiwoo's life. Released in 1995, it was a gutsy, explicit articulation of her experiences, her struggles.
It draws a bridge between her personal life and the listener, doesn't it? Her hardships and experiences being reflected in the music makes it a true piece of a singer-songwriter essence.
Sure. Her unique Alaskan upbringing, the ethics of hard work she learned from her parents, her struggle with homelessness, and eventually her fight for a record deal, it's all there in her songs, in her singing.
Her music has always been inextricably linked with her life, like her soul strumming the guitar, I guess. There's unfiltered honesty, raw emotion that undoubtedly comes from her intimate experiences. Her music is like watching an autobiographical movie. It's her story told through her songs.
Speaking of Jiwoo's rise to fame, who can forget her unforgettable performance at the Interchange Coffee House in San Diego? I believe that's where she was discovered.
Absolutely, Chris. And not only she was discovered there, but that's also where she was living. In a van, actually. She couldn't afford rent, so she took up residence in a van and performed in clubs around the city to make ends meet.
Wow, the grit and humility of that woman never ceased to amaze me.
Indeed. And her sacrifices didn't go in vain. In fact, her hits like You Were Meant for Me and Who Will Save Your Soul helped her debut album stay on Billboard 200 for an impressive 2 years.
Unbelievable, isn't it? From singing in a little coffee house to having her music echoed in millions of hearts worldwide, it's a journey to admire.
Definitely. But what I find ever more fascinating is her evolution as an artist. Isn't she one of the few mainstream artists who seamlessly adopted folk, country, and pop genres?
So true, Jiwoo. And it was not an overnight transition, you know. She tried her hand at a more pop-oriented sound in 0304, which was quite different from her folk-based debut album.
Making such a daring transition isn't a walk in the park. It's commendable how she experimented, learned, and expanded her artistic boundaries over time.
Good point, Chris. It perfectly showcases how versatile and innovative Jiwoo truly is. A real beacon of artistic growth in the music industry.
All right, guys, moving on to a fun bit. What if I put you on the spot? What's your favorite Jiwoo song and why?
Ha, easy. It's got to be Who Will Save Your Soul for me. There is a transcendental wisdom in those lyrics that took me off guard.
Interesting, why so?
Well, I was navigating through a tough phase when I first heard it. The song's vivid depiction of existential despair felt apt. It was almost soothing to know that art could encapsulate such emotions. Plus, the lines, "Who will save your soul if you won't save your own?" had an introspective effect on me, made me reflect and eventually sparked a sense of resilience.
That's impactful, Chris. In contrast, I'd go for Foolish Games. It's her emotive delivery that stole my heart. The vivid imageries and metaphors of unrequited love she beautifully spins in the lyrics. You know, it resonated with me when I was dealing with a similar situation.
I can imagine, Jiwoo. For me, it's got to be You Were Meant for Me. I was just a teenager then, navigating my first major crush. The song's depiction of love's whirlwind of joy and heartache felt so authentic, almost as if it was singing my life.
You Were Meant for Me does have a sense of nostalgia attached to it. I can see why it would connect with your teenage self, Evelyn.
And I think that's what makes Jiwoo's music so powerful. Each of us, living different lives, found some solace, some reflection of our own experience in her lyrics.
You know, listening to your insights on our favorite Jiwoo songs, it made me consider her songwriting process. How does Jiwoo, the woman who grew up in nature's basket of Alaska, weave her experiences of struggle and emotional depth into her lyrics?
Well, I think her songwriting process is largely based on introspection. It's an amalgamation of everything she's been through. Think about Who will save your soul? The lines, Who will save your soul if you won't save your own, conveys this fight through struggle, resulting in personal growth.
True, Chris. Just imagine a page from her songwriting notebook, probably brimming with reflections of her personal life, her experiences, suave expressions of her struggle. Foolish Games, for instance, presents a raw exploration of love's despair.
And I believe nature plays a big part too, right, Jiwoo? Her Alaskan upbringings must have deeply influenced her songwriting.
Absolutely, Evelyn. Her close association with nature is reflected in her vivid imageries. It's almost like nature is a canvas, and she's just painting her emotions across it. Jiwoo's lyrics are like poems imbued with profound wisdom from the cyclical, beautifully harsh realities of nature.
So the main ingredients are introspection, personal struggles, nature, emotional depth. All of these elements are beautifully melded together, creating this unique lyrical world for listeners.
Yep, to put it shortly, it's not just words strung together. It's her life, her essence that she pours into her music. No wonder the songs are so relatable, filled with depth and emotion.
Exactly. It's an intricate balance. You can see her vulnerability seeping through every lyric, yet there's this undertone of resilience that resonates with listeners. Jiwoo's songwriting is undeniably magical and reflective of the battles she's won. Moving on to the significance that Jiwoo has on pop culture, would you say that her lyrical narrative has had a distinct influence on our society at large?
The penetrating depth of her words definitely leave an indelible impact. Her lyrical poetry shapes a unique take on life's highs and lows, leaving an imprint on listeners' interpretation of such experiences.
Isn't that why we resonate so much with her music? Whether it's the nostalgia of You Were Meant for Me or the remarkable struggle for salvation in Who Will Save Your Soul, the universal appeal is palpable.
Well encapsulated, Evelyn. Audience, consider how many times you resonated with her songs during love's despair or moments of self-doubt. That's the power of Jiwoo's lyrical narratives.
In a society where we are so often digitally disconnected, her lyrics connect us to our raw human emotions.
Exactly, Evelyn. And it's exciting to see how this lyrical connection is being discussed, interpreted, and appreciated in our social networks. It proves the cultural value of her work.
Speaking of social impact, let's do something fun. Listeners, let's hear your experiences. Share your stories about Jiwoo's influence, particularly around the theme of her emotional vulnerability.
In the end, only kindness matters. Jiwoo, of course. And after all, what kind of impact do her lyrics, which often emphasize empathy, love, and understanding, have on our listeners, Chris?
I think her music resonates with listeners because she touches upon emotions that are real and relatable. Her ability to elaborate on the depth of human emotions in her lyrics, I believe, creates a sort of indirect connection between her and the listeners.
That's spot on, Chris. It's like she's sharing her experiences, emotions, and life lessons with us through her songs, and because she often delves into common human emotions, listeners can see their own experiences mirrored in her lyrics. Borders are brought down and a bond is formed.
Capturing the essence of our shared humanity in lyrics is nothing short of poetic artistry. It makes us look within and explore our own emotional depths. This connection, being so abstract yet personal, is perhaps one of Jiwoo's greatest accomplishments.
Exactly. It's no wonder her music resonates with people from all walks of life. It speaks volumes about the power of music and the essence of lyrics in establishing shared narratives and connecting individuals.
True, and beyond the personal level, it fosters a culture of empathy and understanding. This abstract bond, as you put it, makes us think, relate, and even act in the societal sphere.
Who can deny the power of Jiwoo's lyrics? It's almost like she opens up a part of her soul each time she writes a song. That vulnerability, in my opinion, is what makes her truly special. Her ability to put complex human emotions into so few words, it's truly remarkable.
I couldn't agree more, Evelyn. Her skills as a songwriter cannot be underrated. She takes you with her on a journey of self-discovery, of deep reflection, and it feels as if you are a part of her story. It's like she's undressing her soul layer by layer in her songs.
Her raw honesty in her work, that's what attracts me. A quality not commonly found in today's pop music, wouldn't you say? Doesn't matter if it's about love, longing, struggle, or perseverance, she captures the essence beautifully. For lack of a better word, it's like magic. Do you remember when she wrote, "Dreams last so long even after you're gone," from You Were Meant for Me? Poetry in motion.
Absolutely, Jiwoo. And the fact that her lyrics elicit such a wide range of emotional responses among diverse listeners, I think this speaks volumes about her emotional intelligence and lyrical prowess.
Look at all of us. Jiwoo's lyrics have the power to evoke admiration of her craft and the wellspring of emotions it's drawn from. Truly, a testament to her songwriting abilities. Her music has touched a diverse span of listeners, not just with their beauty, but also with a depth of relatability and resonance.
So, dipping into our listener submissions, we've had an incredible response for this episode. And what's most heartwarming is how our listeners have shared their connections with Jiwoo's music.
Let's read some of those, shall we? First up, we have one from Haley in New York. She shares, "The lyrics of Foolish Games have such a raw emotion that they hit home. The line, 'You took your coat off and stood in the rain, you're always crazy like that,' brings back a wave of youthful nostalgia, evoking a sense of timeless love. It's beautiful to hear different interpretations and connections."
Speaking of Foolish Games, we have a note from David in Sydney who shared, "In Foolish Games, the lyric, 'It's my turn to decide,' always served as a reminder to put self-care first, to stay true to myself. It brings me comfort." We can clearly see how impactful Jiwoo's lyrics are worldwide.
Indeed, Jiwoo, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Jae-yoon from Busan wrote, "The line, 'Dreams last for so long, even after you're gone,' from You Were Meant for Me, helped me let go and move on from a toxic relationship. It was cathartic and a much-needed solace.
It's remarkable how music, specifically Jiwoo's lyrics, can heal, empower, and inspire listeners in so many different ways. Who knew that a line from a song could trigger such profound personal introspections?
As our time together comes to an end, I find myself reflecting on our journey through Jiwoo's lyrical landscape. From the raw energy of Who Will Save Your Soul to the emotional depth of Foolish Games, her lyrics truly do hold a mirror to the human spirit.
Yes, and we also spent time dwelling on the intricate details of her songwriting, understanding how her hardship in initial years and her Alaskan heritage intertwined to form the backdrop to her lyrical world. It brings about the realization that each lyric embodies a unique narrative born from her authentic experiences. What stands out, in particular, is how Jiwoo's dialogue with resilience and struggle is so well captured in her songs.
The emotional resonance of her music is indeed something really touching, making her lyrics relatable for many of us. Going through Pieces of You showed how her writings echo the rhythm of our own lives, wrapping them in melody and rhythm, rendering them extraordinary.
Exactly, Jiwoo. Oh, and let's not forget the fun we had discussing our personal favorites and enjoying those funny and lighthearted anecdotes. It just goes to show how music and words can transcend boundaries and unify us.
Certainly, Evelyn. Our listeners as well engaged in this exploration. Hearing their interpretations and how Jiwoo's music has impacted their lives brings out the transformative power of music.
Speaking of our listeners, I'd urge everyone to dig deeper into Jiwoo's discography. There are so many beautiful moments captured in her songs, waiting to be discovered. It's just like sifting through a poet's anthology.
Absolutely, Jiwoo. If Jiwoo's songs teach us anything, it's about the gift of endurance in her melodies and the transformative power of lyrics. Her music is an invitation to observe, to empathize, and to grow.